Hi, I'm Kaoru Watanabe. This is kaDON Bayashi series lesson 2. Today we're going to talk about the A melody for the Shinobue. Today I'm going to be using, for this time I'm going to be using a number 6 fue. Okay, so try to get your hands on one, or you'd have to do some transposition in your head. So to talk about the form again, the A melody has a short, very short introduction. Okay, it'll start with the shime daiko, ten, ten. The chu daiko will enter, kaDON, don, 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 play an oroshi, during which the shime will also join in the oroshi. And as the oroshi is still in progress, the opening fue melody will begin. It's all written in the music, but you can follow along. It'll sound like this. Okay, so I just held that note and then finished, held the second to last note. He, right? It's not counted. Especially at the beginning, you can kind of look at each other, he, and just kind of give it to each other. Hopefully over time, you could even do this without looking at each other, where you can really feel it, because the taiko players will try to follow that last note with like a muting of the drums. So that's the first, right off the bat, an example of really trying to feel each other's timing. Okay, so moving on into melody A. I'm going to play the melody. I'll play it nice and slow. And from there, once I play the simple version of it, I'm going to show you some ways that we can kind of add nuance and different accents and things to it. So here it is, melody A. 3, 4. Okay, so right off the bat, we have repeated notes, right? And for those of you who haven't had a lot of experience playing Shinobue, we don't use tonguing in general, right? To explain what tonguing is, it's when you use your tongue to articulate a note. I'm saying tu, 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 right? We don't, in traditional music, I haven't found any traditional music, Japanese flute music that uses tonguing. Contemporary players will use it. But so for today, we're not going to use any tonguing. And the way we're going to get to articulating notes, re-articulating the same note, is by using our fingers, right? To hit with the fingers. You can go back to my series on fundamental fue basics, where we talked about the ways and the multiple ways that we re-articulate notes. So please look at that if you have any questions. So that's the basic melody. I played it A one time through to the first ending. And then from there, it's just going to repeat multiple times. The taiko, the shime daiko, and the chu daiko are playing along. And the idea behind a lot of the festivals is that as the drummers and the flute players oftentimes are accompanying mikoshi, the portable shrine, or some sort of shishi, roughly translated as the lion or dragon dance, the shishi odori, shishimai. So the music and the musicians are processing through a street, right? So oftentimes you have to repeat the same melody over and over and over and over and over and over again all day, right? So with this melody, the idea is you can just kind of keep repeating it over and over again. Perhaps the taiko player will perform little embellishments and solos as the melody is going. But basically, you're going to be repeating this melody over and over and over again until it's time to move on to the second melody, melody B. So the last two measures of the melody are different. You'll see it is written as ending 2. And I'll just play just that ending, okay? the second measure of that ending will slow down. 3, 4. Okay, so he dee 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 he dee he dee dee, right? That he is where the note is stretched. It's not a counted stretch. But again, the musicians are looking at each other. He dee dee. The taiko players are going to try to match the melody of the flute. Okay? I'll play the melody again, just so you can play along and practice. It'll sound like this, okay? From the beginning of A, I'll play it all the way through to the first ending, go back to the beginning, and then we'll go right on to the second ending with the end. Here we go. 3, 4. Okay, so in case you were wondering, right near the end of the first page, I think it's measure 15, there's a descending line, and it's a 5-note descending line. It's a 5-note, yeah, 5-note descending and then back up to the same 5 notes. This might be a little tricky, especially if you're kind of new at the fue or these kind of rhythms. But basically, right now we're kind of subdividing everything into 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But now the fue is playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So even though the taiko are playing in the 4, the fue is playing 5 over that. Right? So it's a little tricky. Just really practice with that. I recommend practicing this melody with a metronome. Just have it on either on the 2 and the 1 and 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? But just trying to play the melody without stopping, and anytime you have trouble spots, just review those trouble spots before moving on. Okay, so that 5 rhythm is a little tricky. Work on that. And one last hint before we finish with today's lesson. What I like to do, and it's written in the music, is while you're doing those 5 hits, every time you get to the 3 note, I'm adding a little trill in there, okay? So it'll sound like this. 3, 4. I'm hitting the every time I hit the 3. So it just gives it another added element on top of that. So there's some, you're starting to hear some of the different accents and trills that I'm adding throughout the music. A lot of it is actually just kind of on the spirit, on the fly, that as I'm playing, I'm hearing different accents, and depending on what the taiko players, I'll be adding those different trills and accents as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the kind of degrees of fanciness, if you will, in how we play these melodies. So just taking apart the opening line of A, it starts with 3 repeated notes, right? Right, that's it, just one note by one note. And I was, as you heard me, articulating it with my fingers, and there's different ways I can do that. For example, right? Or, right, I'm using my left hand ring finger now. I'm just accenting with my right hand. I can go. I'm alternating between this hand, this finger, and then these fingers, right? I just accented all the index finger. And just now, I even added a little trill to the last note. Right? Now we're getting, again, different degrees of how elaborate you want to do these articulations. So just even the opening phrase can be done so many ways. So we're getting fancier and fancier, right? Right, I'm adding all these trills, and I could start adding dynamics like breath accents. Hee dee dee dee. I'm accenting the third of the repeated figure. Right, I'm kind of putting swells into the phrase. Hee dee 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 hee dee 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 dee. Right, just to give more of this dramatic sense to it. To take a big step back, right, for people who don't have as much experience playing the fue, you can take it as simple as this. I'm just holding the three notes. Instead of repeating each one, I'm just holding them out. And so, hee dee dee dee, hee dee dee, right, I'm just simplifying. I'm just kind of putting a slur. If you don't know the phrase, the musical term is a slur, where you're just, instead of articulating, you're holding a note. So to play more of the phrase like that, right, I'm just kind of holding notes now to make it even more simple. It doesn't necessarily mean it's less sophisticated way. It's just a different way of playing it. It can be it can be very graceful and very smooth if you wanted to play it like that. So with this piece, I really would encourage you to explore degrees of how much you want to add to it, how simple you want to make it, how much vibrato you add to it. And I even challenge you to try to play each phrase differently, especially the repeated phrases. To have it, if the first time you play very loud, maybe the second time a little bit softer. You know, the first time you could play it with a crescendo, maybe the second time it'll start loud, get soft, and then end loud again. You know, there's just an endless variety of ways you can phrase these things. And again, it can be determined or influenced greatly by what the taiko players are playing, right? So we're getting deeper and deeper into the idea of ensemble. So this is comes to the conclusion of this lesson. Next lesson, we're going to go into melody B. However, before we close this lesson, I'm going to play the melody very, very slowly. If you already kind of get a sense of the melody by looking at the music, you may want to skip this part. But if you have trouble reading music or you know, are not really understanding the notation, you can take this time to try to figure out the phrases. I'll play each phrase one by one, you know, note by note, so you can figure that out. But for now, I'll say goodbye, and I'll see you at the next lesson. So here are the phrases broken down very slow, and I'll stop at each phrase so you can kind of process it. It happens again. I'll play it again. Okay. It happens twice in the melody. I'll play it one more time just so you can get it. And I'll play it one more time with different type of alternate fingerings. just to give you an idea of possibilities you can have for rearticulating. Next phrase. Once again. I'm going to take this moment to mention that the third note of the phrase has an alternate fingering. Both of them are very common. Just now I was playing this note, all the fingers down except for the middle finger of the left hand. You can also play if you hold this fingering, which is the index finger of the left and the pinky of the right, but only lift up just a little bit of your left hand index finger. So it's like you're opening up a little bit of the hole. So you can see I'm kind of bending my finger across. And that's going to give you the same sound as this alternate fingering. All right. So I just demonstrated it using this finger. I'm going to demonstrate it using the alternate. So I use it going up as well as coming down in that phrase. Okay, moving on to the next phrase. Okay, I'll play it again. Okay, next phrase. It starts on the second beat. So 3, 4, 1. Three, 4, 1. Next phrase. This is the 5/8 note phrase that I mentioned before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. Next phrase. So I'm using the alternate finger I just mentioned with everything down except for the left hand. Again, this might be a tricky finger for some people. You really need to make sure your right hand pinky is down. Otherwise, the note won't sound at all. You could try using, again, the half hole on the left hand index finger. I will demonstrate it for you both ways. First with this fingering. 3, 4. I'll do it again, this time with this fingering for the first note. 3, 4. That last note, the last part of the phrase I just played, he, dee, dee, is repeated twice. So I'll just play it one more time. And now the first ending in its entirety. 3, 4. I'll play it again with a different fingering. I'll play it one more time, quite a bit slower. And now we're going to skip to the second ending. Here it goes. 3, 4. And that last he, dee, the last two notes are the one after you've stretched out the previous note. So I'll do the same phrase again. 3, 4. This ends the breakdown of Melody A. See you next time.